starting.
Yep.
Oh, there we are.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Family Jewels. And I'm Colton Bartell.
And I'm Audie Bartell.
And we're actually both graduate gemologists here at Suzanne's. And this morning we're going to be talking about settings. So normally we're talking about gemstones and stuff like that. But
for photography or something?
No.
I can get different backgrounds or...
No.
No.
Stone settings.
Ah.
Yes. So, most people know about prong, and that's usually where it stops.
Well, yeah, probably. Because the rest of them, they think if it's got little deals going over the stone, that's basically prong set, so...
Yeah, but there are actually a bunch of different ways of setting stones.
Let's see.
So, those are prong set, which are the stud
And
earrings.
this is a martini setting.
Yeah.
It's actually a three-prong setting. So
Yeah, we're not going to get into all of the different settings within settings because there are a bunch of different ones just in prong. Not to mention all the other ones that are out there. So
this will probably be some of the more popular, I guess.
The more popular, the more common ones. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different ones here that we're going to show you and kind of explain a little bit of how they work, what some of the benefits are with these different settings, and I guess some of the primary or the ways they're primarily used, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so like Colton said, the one most people know about would be, like engagement rings are normally a 4 or 6 prong setting.
Yep.
A Tiffany setting probably. And and there are a lot of major stones that are basically prong set.
Yep.
But there are other ways to...
Good morning, Lori.
Other ways to set stones. And one of them that's kind of fairly new, I guess, would be, what I was going to talk about is an invisible setting. And it's one that's, there wasn't very many people or very many manufacturers or jewelers that could do this back, say, 30 years ago.
Or even last week.
What happens on an invisible setting is there's no metal above the stone. So it sounds like, well, how are you going to hold that in there? What they actually do is they actually groove the stone about at the girdle.
Yeah. And
then it's almost like, kind of looks like almost an I-beam type thing.
It's kind of like tongue and groove, or like a lot of people have seen like Fixer Upper, shiplap, how it kind of fits together. It kind of does the same thing. So instead of having prongs and stuff like that in there, they're actually, the stones are kind of holding themselves in, and then there's like some little bit of a bridge work.
Yeah, what they do is they basically force metal into those grooves from underneath.
Yeah.
And a lot of times...
Very difficult to do.
A lot of the first ones, they probably did that with platinum. Platinum would be pretty easy to do that.
Yeah. We've got an example of this, what's really cool...
Take it out of there.
Huh? Well, this is a little bit easier because now I have a white background that I don't have to worry about.
Okay.
Yeah.
But... there's a possibility on...
Yes, cars have bras and stone settings have girdles. Yes, so this is... I guess it...
Oh, yeah, we didn't tell where a girdle was at. It's in the middle.
Yeah, it is in the middle.
Right between that edge that's where the top and bottom of a diamond meets or a stone meets.
Its widest point.
Well, normally.
Yeah.
Would be the girdle.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be a weird stone if it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know where he's going with that.
Yeah. So
the hips of the stone.
Yeah. So what's nice about channel setting is you don't have any prongs setting up above that are going to catch anything.
Oh, you've skipped to channel now.
Oh, or invisible.
Oh, okay.
Well, kind of the same way. Both of us
Well,
have the same.
yeah.
And to some degree, I'm going to say some people will look at invisible setting and think it is channel setting.
Yes.
And actually part of
it is.
Is channel setting.
It could.
It could.
It could.
Because I guess you're going to have an edge there somewhere.
Yeah. You're going to have something to support it. Now, the other thing is with invisible setting, is true invisible settings only done with princess cuts?
No.
Yeah.
No. Invisible?
Yeah.
No.
Because the other ones are going to be a type of fantasy setting. Because they've got to have the straight edges in order and come to points in order to fill the whole gaps.
No, because, and I'm going to, I'll say it's kind of a hybrid, but you can take round stones and there'll be just a post in between. So it almost, you're going to say maybe more of a shared prong. But
Yeah.
Oscar Heyman actually does what I would call an invisible setting where they actually have a post and it's only, well, it'd be like what, 3 or 4?
But is the metal visible from the top?
Yeah.
Then it's not an invisible setting.
That's a hybrid then. Well, there wasn't many people that could do that either.
No.
And
No,
that-
those are still really difficult. But a true invisible setting, the whole reason for the invisible part is there's no visible metal holding the stones in. And so, like with these, like we were talking about, there's no visible metal in between. There's actually 3 rows of stones here, but it looks like they're just kind of pushed in there.
And they are.
Yeah, yeah, they really are. So, good morning, Mike.
Carl,
Um,
turn the air conditioner on.
So then the one that's really similar to this that you had brought up was channel setting,
Right.
and this can actually be done with any shape.
Yeah.
Some are a little bit easier to do than others.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say like pear shapes and marquees would be.
They're tough.
Yeah.
They're doable, but they're tough.
Yeah. I would say maybe that pear might be more difficult than a marquee.
Yeah, depends on which way you go with it, because you could turn them different ways.
Yeah, it'd be
So
tough.
if you went from point to bottom, that might be a little easier than trying to set it in the side and not squirt out.
Yeah.
You know. So, but with channel setting, which most people are familiar with channel setting, this is basically where you've got the stones are edge to edge, and then basically there is a metal rail that goes around the outside. So we've got metal out here and on the other side as well. And then the stones are basically just set edge to edge other than that.
It's almost like a groove that the diamonds set in on both sides.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just basically in a lot of cases there's just a long seat that's cut in this wall.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have 2 walls up like this, and you have little seats cut in the sides like this, and then the stones fit in there, and then the tops of these walls are hammered down or burnished down on top of the stones to secure them, but there's no metal in between them.
Right.
And so
And there can be open channels or closed channels.
Yeah.
This one happens to be an open channel, so that the ends are going to be difficult to see, but
Yeah, the ends of the channels.
there's no
are
metal on
exposed.
the ends, which I don't know that you can see that. I guess
Maybe we got too much light here. Let's see here. Let's turn this down just a bit. Let's see if that helps.
Okay. So we'll try it again.
Yeah, it helps a
A
little
little
bit.
bit. Otherwise, there can be a closed channel where there'd be metal blocking those end stones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this one happens to
Yeah,
be
this,
open.
like, on mine, this is a similar way.
You may have to leave it on your finger.
So on mine, it's actually got closed channels. So you can see it actually, there's ends here that are solid. And so the stones are set within that little channel there. But we got all sorts of people coming in. So anyway, it's actually a very secure way of setting stones, and a very traditional way. Works really, really well for men's bands, stuff like that. Very low profile. Uh, People that work with their hands a lot but still want stone set in their rings, this is a great way to do that because it's secure, it's low profile. You don't have to worry about hitting it on stuff and things like that. So that's a really good application for channel set. We do it primarily. Channel set stones are going to be princess cuts or rounds. Just kind of depends on the design, but that's the majority of them out there. Another similar one, and we're going to talk about a lot of these that are basically a flesh setting, or they're even with the surface of the metal. The stones are. The next one I'm going to kind of talk about is flush setting, and I've got a couple examples here of that, where these are actually little princess cuts set in this men's band here. And I know they're kind of difficult to see on here, but you can actually see that they're not sticking up above the ring or anything like that. They're actually flush with the surface of the metal. Fancy shapes like this are very difficult to do because these have to be hand cut, because for some reason nobody's been able to come up with a drill bit that cuts a square hole. So a little bit difficult to do. Definitely easier than the invisible setting, and but still it's a really pretty setting, very secure way of doing it. You don't have to worry about hitting it and moving prongs and stuff like that. Similar to the channel setting, these are actually maybe a little bit more secure because you've got metal going all the way around them. We've got another example here. These stones are actually all flush set in this ring, so you can see there's nothing really that sticks above. Everything is just nice and even with the metal, and these are actually all kind of in a perfect hole for the stone, and then the metal's kind of burnished in around it or hammered in, and it makes for a very secure setting, very modern looking. So again, most of these settings are going to be determined usually more so on the style that we're trying to achieve, and then second, their function. Every once in a while it may be more of a primary thing to worry about the function of the piece rather than style. For example, like with these bands, if you've got a guy that's working with his hands all day and he's wanting stones in his ring, probably don't want them prong set. You're probably going to want something channel set or flush set like these other ones. Another similar style of setting is going to be bezel setting, which is what this little enhancer pendant is done like. So this, again, you've got metal going all the way around the stones, but these are actually where maybe you have a bezel that sticks up on top of a piece and then the stone is set down in it, but it's not technically flush with the rest of the mounting. So these are bezel sets. So where the stone is set is actually raised from everything else, and you basically have, it's similar to a channel setting, I guess, in that you've got kind of a wall for this bezel, and so if you did a cross section of the bezel, you've got like these little seats cut in here where the edge of the stone's going to set, and then this top piece is hammered down or burnished down on top of the stone to tighten it and keep it in. And they're very, very secure. We do that a lot with, again, rings that are going to be worn where they may get bumped a lot, or somebody that's really hard on jewelry. That works really well. Or they like just a modern look. That's a really good alternative type setting for that. And so we do that a lot on engagement rings, especially for like nurses, where we also don't want like prongs that are going to catch on gloves and tear gloves, stuff like that. Bezel settings work really well. There's also partial bezels where maybe it doesn't go all the way around the stone, but you've got maybe a half circle on top and then a half in the bottom, and you got like some open edges in the middle. We've got partial bezels. There's also some that almost are like a 4-prong partial bezel kind of deal, where it's got like 4 little sections that are wider that go over the stone. So they're not technically a prong, but they're not technically a bezel either, but we do that every once in a while for the same reasons. Then we get to where we've got some prongs showing, but in a similar fashion of the invisible set, we have what's called a fantasy setting. So in this case, we're not actually grooving the stones or anything like that, but I know this looks like one giant stone on here, but this is actually, this center part right here is actually made up of 4 stones. So you've got a princess cut in the middle, and then 4 marquee shapes that are actually around it. And so I know this is kind of blurry, but I wanted to get this at least to where you guys could kind of see what we're looking at. This is a fantasy setting, so we actually have prongs that are holding the stones in, but the 4 outside stones are holding that center stone in. So a little bit different, but now we've got some prongs showing. We use this to maybe create different looks using smaller stones. Like in this case, these earrings appear like we've got maybe more like 5 carat stones in each earring, but we've actually got 5 small stones making up what looks like a larger stone, which is really cool. This is also a fairly difficult setting to get right. It obviously can be done, but it is fairly difficult to do. But it works really, really well for applications like this, where we're wanting a much bigger look without using a single stone that could be many times more expensive. And so it kind of accomplishes a twofold task here of getting that big look but keeping the price down. So that's kind of a cool setting there. Then we move into and we're working kind of towards that prong setting that we showed you first. This next one that we're going to show you still has all the stones fairly flush, very smooth surface, and this one actually people see a lot. And this setting is what's called pave. A lot of times you might hear micro pave, depending on the exact way it's being used, but pave simply means paved in diamonds. And so what this is this is a type of what we call shared prong setting. So you have one prong that can affect as many as maybe 5 stones, but in most cases there's one prong that's usually affecting 3 stones that it's around. And so we can do really crazy stuff like this, where we've got 588 diamonds in this bracelet, and give it basically an entire top that is all diamond, with a small amount of metal showing. And what's really nice with these is when this is set in white gold with white diamonds, you can see those prongs are actually really difficult to see, because when they're highly polished like that, they kind of blend in and look like another facet on these stones. But somewhat a difficult setting to do, definitely easier than the invisible set, but takes a lot of planning to get these right, and it definitely takes a skilled jeweler to get all these stones set level and even, and get everything tight, because as you move prongs around, you may loosen another stone in order to tighten another one. So you got to kind of be careful on how this is done, but ultimately ends up in a very pretty type of setting. This has been very popular in the last couple decades with engagement rings, especially, where we are just wanting to just basically, pave the sides of the rings and stuff in diamond. And so we do have a lot of paved pieces, but I mean, as you can see, this stuff looks really incredible. I mean, it's just constant sparkle. So really cool setting. Let me turn my light up here a little bit, because may help. There we go. Now you can really see the sparkle on there. This is just a really pretty bracelet. and with about 16 carats of diamond in here. So you can imagine that took a little bit of time to set, each one of these being set by hand. So really cool setting. Then we're working even closer towards our prong setting is what we called shared prong. And we've got a band here that's actually a shared prong setting. So these are going to be where they're all lined up. And if we had walls on the side, then this would be a channel setting, but we've actually got little prongs in between each stone here. And you can kind of see that. I'm getting it close here, but just trying to focus on other stuff. But we've actually got prongs in between each stone. So the reason this is called a shared prong setting is simply because stones that are next to each other are actually sharing a set of prongs. So as you tighten one stone, you're actually tightening two. And you kind of work in progressive order across the ring in order to tighten everything up. And so these are used a lot in wedding bands and stuff like that. In the 90s and early 2000s, the Journey pendants that were out and were really popular utilized the shared prong setting a lot. And it's very clean, it's fairly secure, relatively easy to do, which is nice, and really shows off the stones. Normally you're gonna see the full scope of the stone. You're not gonna have a bunch of metal covering up edges and stuff like that. So these are a lot of fun to do. We use this a lot because it really opens up the other design work in the pieces that we make, and really shows off the stones, which is really nice. So we like to use that a lot. And that brings us back to our prong setting that we started out with. And this is the most traditional way of setting stones. Ultimately, you have wires that are sticking up. That, you know, have a 4-prong setting. You got wires that are sticking up, and you're going to put your stone in here, and you basically cut little notches in the prongs, and then bend them over and tighten the stones. And you know, I would think that most people, if not all, that have ever seen jewelry before are familiar with prong setting, because that's the most common way of setting stones, and still extremely effective, always easy to design with, and so it's still used the vast majority of the time in nearly every piece. There's some few exceptions, you know, like within this group, but we actually picked these pieces out for the specific reason of showing you these different types of settings. But in most cases, we've got mixed types of setting. So, like for instance, in these earrings, you know, we had the fantasy setting, but the top stone here is actually just prong set. And then in this wedding set, in this semi-mount, we've got prong set mixed with channel and shared prong setting all in one set here. So again, it's just kind of how we want it to look, how we want it to function and stuff like that. There are a bunch of different ways to set stones that we haven't talked about, but these are probably the most popular and most common ones that you will see. And we just kind of wanted to talk about them a little bit to kind of give you guys an idea of what's available out there, and let you know that they can be mixed. You can mix these different settings together to come up with some really cool looks. So if you are thinking about doing custom work, it's something to keep in mind that there's a bunch of options out there of how these stones are set in metal. Basically, we can do it in whatever way, make sure that stone is secure. We've even overlaid metal over the top of stones in a design to keep them in. So really, it's limited by imagination, but these are the most common ones that we use. So yeah, but just to let you guys know, we will be off next week. Next week is spring break, so we won't be on this next week. But when we come back from spring break, we will start back up with episode 9 of season 3. We're in season 3 already. This is amazing. So we hope you guys are enjoying the show. Good morning, Carla. And if you guys have any comments or suggestions of what you would like for us to talk about or explain more, we know that there's been a lot of stones and stuff that we've covered over these last 2.5 seasons nearly. And so, yeah, if there's more that you guys want covered, if there's specific topics in the jewelry industry that you would like us to cover, please leave us a comment or message us and let us know. We will do our best to go over it and keep you informed. We love teaching and explaining things to people, so we aren't shy about it, and we'd love to share our knowledge with you guys. So leave us a comment, if nothing else, just to say hi. We love hearing from you guys that are watching, and we love the constructive criticism. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Enjoy your spring break next week, and we will see you after spring break. Thanks. Bye.